Well, last time I have told that the rich man who uses wealth for consumption and work to get additional income. Um, this case basically. Well, if this case is an exception, of course, that's not a concern for the overall economic analysis. And note that capitalist system basically based on people who have a large buying power. If you want to operate a steel plant or let's say a company like Apple, company like Walmart, uh, company like a large hotel like I don't know um, Hotel Ring, for example. Um, then you need to have a lot of wealth, and that wealth, the buying power of that wealth, is necessary for organizing the workers. There are some companies that could be small, uh, although even that those companies need a certain level of wealth, and that those companies are actually part of the question. But capitalist system needs men who use their wealth for the uh, control of the production, and actually defined by the action of those people. Uh, so that means basically that huge wealth difference is kind of the driving factor of the system. Uh, and Marx also defines, the workers also need to have less wealth so that they will be willing to work for the people with more wealth. At least, even if they are able to open a small hotel, they won't be able to, the workers won't be able to have sufficient wealth to operate a huge hotel ring. And that inability to use their uh, labor efficiently as self-employed people, that is the key for the capitalist system, according to Marx. So, certain rich men might just enjoy their wealth, don't spend it for anything. But the thing is, as long as the key of the economic system requires those wealthy men in control and wealth as key for them to maintain their control. Um, at least, you can say the critique of the relation of exploitation and inequality should be questioned, let's say. So, well, one question we might ask is, of course, the middle income groups and high income workers. And we might ask how they are basically, are they exploited? And if they are exploited, if they are not exploited, why are they hired? If they are exploited, then why they stay on their jobs but don't use? They have a high level of wealth. Why they don't use that level of wealth to just quit and basically become self-employed? Although for some middle income groups, in some countries this might not be easy. It contains a lot of risks basically, and again, in many cases they might not be work in the same profession. For example, an engineer in the steel factory cannot open a steel plant basically, and even a doctor might not be able to work as efficient as he works in a hospital in his own clinic basically. But at least there's a possibility for them to be self-employed for some middle income groups, usually the upper ones, relatively. And high income groups might be able to do so. And by the way, some high income groups, for example, movie stars, do that basically. Well, one thing is actually it's possible to make these people work without paying them very large sums, basically, which we might say on average well, they might not be they might not be exploited, or at least I mean the exploitation relation might be running in a different way for them. Next part I will basically explain them, but just think about this. If the products that are produced by this high income the mobility to the jobs represented by this high income group is restricted, in that case there will be field workers working in those jobs. As a result, I mean, you need to pay more money to them, maybe more than actual value those higher income groups create. If they work 10 hours, you might work a wage which might be more or less equal to 12, 20, or 30 labor hours. But the capitalists who hire them might not lose anything from that, because they might just increase the price of the product they sell. Well, if you increase the increasing price of the product cannot create profit for whole capitalist class, because if they all increase the price of product, then no one will benefit. I mean, still everyone will sell. People will gain when they sell what they lose when they buy, since the increasing of the price of inputs will be as high as increasing the price of the outputs. But certain sectors might increase their prices above the value of their products, and certainly if there's a labor restrictions, the mobility restrictions, the sectors that need to hire high income workers because of the inability, of course, if they can't, they might still want to lower the cost of their labor. But if they cannot do that, they might react by increasing the price of their products. So as a result, actually, this high income group might be able to get, let's say, money, strictly speaking, more value than they have created. But the value is transferred from other sectors to this sector, which means actually the capitalists will still benefit from their product, because the capitalist is able to sell the product produced by this high income workers for a higher price. Basically, of course, still this high income group, since I mean the capitalists still earn something, which means that they don't give them all potential revenue, they should still be unable to just quit and be self-employed in the very sector they are operating. At least they still should not be as efficient as possible if they do that. Still, however, I mean, this ability for some workers to open businesses, small businesses, basically, that's a question we should ask. I mean, that's not explanation of Marx. That's one way I could have evaluated this possibility. Again, for rent and interest, the same thing is true. I mean, for the small businesses, the question might become who can open still those small businesses, after which potential income level it's become possible. Again, what are the risks of small businesses and efficiency of small businesses compared with the case when the same labor power of the same people are used by a large-scale company? In some sectors, of course, small businesses are more easy to operate, maybe more efficiently. There are no large companies. Once coffee sector was like that, although sectors that are open to small businesses tend to also close in time, lost this characteristic. For example, coffee sector increasingly has now this chains, which is to some extent choking the small coffee shops, although they to some extent still resist. But still, this is a big question. The existence of the small business, what does it mean for the capitalist system? And I have also greater discussion just for the small and medium enterprises, basically, later. The second question is, of course, rent and interest. And here, of course, the question is how much wealth, I mean, not ownership of house also means you have an increase in your wealth. That house is part of your wealth. How much wealth you need to have earn sufficient rent and interest, which makes you survive. If that level is low, in that case, many workers might just stop work and basically just earn rent and interest. But is this the case? That's the other question, of course. So the question becomes, of course, I mean, are the workers, at least the middle class and upper class workers, working just because they want to work, even though they are able to get self-employed or become capitalists? Is being capitalist and being worker just a choice, or are the economic relations forcing people to become workers, or at least encouraging, I mean, giving more incentive for them to become worker? That's the big question here. So this week's discussion is on wealth inequality, basically. Note that the key factor within this Marxian framework is wealth inequality. So I want to put that to the center. Why? Because in the end, think that the workers free of capital is only having workers free of capital means that workers should have less wealth, much less wealth, and a tiny fraction of the society, or a fraction of the society. I mean, Marx doesn't talk on its ideal size, but a fraction of society has high level of wealth, which allows them to hire workers and organize them, and let, of course, get also necessary non-labor inputs of production and organize the production. Of course, here I mean production of anything. Banks also kind of organize the production of financial services in that case. So, well, if capitalism, well, according to Marx, that wealth inequality is a necessary characteristic of capitalism, and it's playing a role of separating one section of society from the other, and preventing that section to jump to the other section, or at least making it sufficiently difficult, creating sufficient level of disincentives or barriers. So wealth is acting as a barrier. In that sense, also to some extent, you're protecting the people who own the wealth. While in neoclassical economics, sometimes wealth is considered to have a role of motivator, which means, I mean, people look to people with other people with high wealth, and they work more to get that wealth. Of course, which assumes that working more, working harder makes people earn more wealth. That question is by itself a discussion. I mean, how can you get high wealth, on which I have some ideas. There are some ways, but whether only working hard helps is a big question also. So basically, these two definitions of wealth and wealth inequality are contrasted. And think about that. And the video is a very pessimistic video, but don't be just influenced by the video. Think the role wealth inequality plays in society, and to what extent capitalist system needs this wealth inequality, and to what extent and in which way capitalist system, if it does, benefits or harmed by the wealth inequality. So this is the end of this week's this lecture, basically. I hope to see you in the next lecture, and as always, I hope you will stay healthy.